Well, good evening and welcome to InnovateHERS Create, a virtual exhibition of women artists. This is our social media live launch for this event and for this gallery that we have so lovingly created. So I am Lauren Conaway. I am founder and CEO of InnovateHER KC. And for those of you who don't know, InnovateHER KC is a 4,000 plus member women's leadership community in Kansas City. We serve women leaders in the verticals of entrepreneurship, education, community advocacy, civic engagement, and the arts, which is what we're here to talk about today. Everything that we do with a lens to inclusion and belonging. And we have what we call our 6 pillars of action. So we serve our members through social connection, professional development, amplification of work, mentorship, championship, and resource sharing. So that's a little bit about us. But right now, I also want to tell you a little bit about InnovateHERS Create. InnovateHERS Create is a virtual gallery. And when we sat down and started talking about this project, we were looking for ways to support our creative community. InnovateHER KC, a significant segment of our 4,000 members are creatives. They are graphic designers, they are artists, they are performers. And we didn't think we were doing a great job of supporting them. And so we came up with InnovateHERS Create. It's a very experimental idea. And we wanted to see if we could create a virtual environment in which to celebrate women in the arts here in the Kansas City area. And so that was kind of the genesis or the kernel of the idea. It has since grown. We currently have 11 artists and creatives featured in the gallery. Multiple works of art from most. We have tried to create what we consider to be an interactive experience. And we're just really excited to share that with you because fundamentally our job is to elevate and champion women leaders. And we feel that we have found some really, really amazing women to highlight. The work that they do to make Kansas City a more beautiful and creative place is absolutely incredible. So with one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about very briefly is the support that we have received from the Kansas City community. And I wanted to, in particular, talk to you about one of our event sponsors. So KC Auction and Appraisal Company. They have been supportive and wonderful allies and co-conspirators and friends to InnovateHER KC from day one. So when we started to think about ways that we could make this happen, Jason Roski was actually one of the first calls that I made. And I did that because he has just been an incredible lead. I know that he's an incredible leader in his own right. He has created an amazing organization, but I also know that he has a huge heart to support not only the work that we do, but specifically the work that women in creative arts do every day. So I'd like to introduce Jason, allow him the opportunity to talk to us a little bit about his company, KC Auction and Appraisal Company, and talk to us a little bit about how his feelings and his thoughts on InnovateHERS Create. Jason, thank you so much for your support and your partnership. It's been a joy to work with you. Can't tell you how much I appreciate you.
Well, Lauren, thanks for having me on tonight. It's when you called, we reached out and talked about this event from the get-go. It was really exciting on many levels for us to be involved, and I'm thrilled that we were able to work this out and bring this to fruition. It's always fun to see something go from an incubation, an idea, to an actual real living thing, and it's exciting to announce that tonight.
Yeah. Well, I am just absolutely thrilled. Thank you so much. So I'm really curious. Can you tell us a little bit about exactly what KC Auction and Appraisal Company does? Absolutely. I know, but I'd like everybody to know.
Absolutely. Well, we help people, generally speaking, we help people transition. When people move, downsize, retire, family members downsize, retire, pass on. We're oftentimes one of the first calls people make because we help people turn their legacy into tangible assets for other people. When we collect things over generations of our lives, or the generations of our families' lives, oftentimes when those life transitions happen, not all those things make it to the next level or to the next stage of our existence. And so we're called in to help people decide what they should keep, what they should sell, what they should donate, what they should do with the things from that point going forward. We also get called when people need to appraise those things in anticipation of those events.
Sure. Well, and I also happen to know that you have a very cool podcast, and I just wanted to point you to that. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I started Behind the Gavel with Jason a while back, and you'll be a guest on there shortly. But I decided a couple of years ago just to do something fun and interesting. For a long time, it was just me talking to a screen, talking about different, whether it's antique furniture or jewelry or using the china and crystal that you inherited. And then when COVID came along, which is what this event was the genesis of that, it gave me an opportunity to look into things like StreamYard, like we're using tonight, where we could stream live on Facebook. And since I found this tool and have been using it, I've interviewed guests all over the country, from Italy, the UK, and we've been able to talk to some really great people about all kinds of interesting facets around, generally speaking, around the antique and estate and auction world. But I've had Burton Kelso on, who's a tech expert, because tech affects every part of our lives. I had a company on in upstate New York that sell personalized place card pieces. Generally, it's just a white piece of paper that has a name on it. Well, they've made these as decorative objects. So we do lifestyle, we do interior design. I talked to the Antiques Diva in Venice, Italy. So we've had a really interesting run of guests. Had Dr. Raymond Doswell from the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum here in town on the show. So we really look, it's my show, so I talk to who I want to when they say yes, right? So
yeah,
we've been a little lax lately. We're moving across town here. So it takes, as you well know, it takes a lot to put these shows together, to do them well, to get the background, do all the work afterwards, post-production.
It takes some forethought for sure.
Absolutely. So I just kind of set the Behind the Gavel off to the side. We run reruns every Friday right now, but it's every Friday morning, 11:45 Kansas City time. Yeah. Live on Facebook that we put on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn.
Well, so we've talked a little bit about what you do, which I love, but now I want to talk about who you are. And so one of the things that has always impressed me about you is not, you've got business savvy. I know that you've built, your organization into something really great. That being said, I love your heart. I know that you just have a huge heart for community support and helping folks who need it. And so I'm really curious, you touched on this a little bit, but I'd love it if you could delve down real deep. Like, why was InnovateHERS Create important to you? Like, where did you see that opportunity?
Right. So before InnovateHERS Create came around, Innovator KC is important to me because I'm married to a brilliant woman. My right hand man in my business is a brilliant woman who's also an artist. And my wife and awesome. I are Amy Absher, who need to work together. She is represented by the Blue Gallery, owned by another amazing woman here in town. So my world is full of amazing women. And my wife and I love artwork. And so the two really joined in our business. We sell over 2,000 framed objects every year, whether that's paintings, prints, mirrors, decorative objects. Yeah. And that's going to increase as we move to our new location. So we see the secondary market a lot, and that's what people think of us. But we're also very fascinated and intrigued and passionate about those who create art today. We know artists don't create art because they want to make money. They create it because it's a passion. And those who create art for a long time, they have no option but to create that art. They can't live and breathe without it. And that's something that's very intriguing and inspiring to me and my wife, to see that in other people. And so we've supported Symphony of the Flint Hills in their art auction. We've worked with other nonprofits to help them with their art auctions, Albrecht Kemper Museum of Art, all those kinds of people. We have several coming up here shortly as a way to kind of, expose our customers to contemporary works of art. Most of our customers are in the estate world. They're thinking of, antique and estate pieces of artwork, but also to introduce have ideas for our artists to think about what's the, the marketability of art is important too. Whether you make it because you want to or you want to make money, the idea is at some point as an artist, you want to make money. And I think this is a great way to, Innovators Create is such a great way for people to find and be accessed and exposed to art that they may not otherwise seen. Some of the artists that have been chosen so far are in genres or of ages that most people will never think of as artwork, right? Like Jaelyn coming on here a little bit. I mean, my goodness, I have shoes older than that girl.
But she's such an amazing artist. I'm like, man,
absolutely.
I wish I was that together when I was her age.
Absolutely. And Courtney doing hair art is such an intriguing thing, and I'm very familiar with it. I've dealt with that over the last 30 years in the business.
Sure.
I see quite a bit, but so it's just a way for us to be involved and help expose artists, recognize, represent, and celebrate women artists who oftentimes are challenged in those aspects historically and even contemporaneously. You look at museum representation; it's nil. Gallery representation is better than it has been, but still, there's a long way to go. And so I think, as you look through history, when you open up, baseball to all players, when you open up football to all players, the sport gets better. When you open up the venues for artists, for all artists, art will get better. And I think that's so important to think about and look at.
And I love that you come at it through that lens. We do this work because it's the right thing to do, but we also do this work because it makes things better for everyone. Like there is an actual tangible bottom line that I don't think it's talked about enough. And so I love that. And Jason, I can't thank you enough for your sponsorship and your partnership around this project. It has been invaluable to us, so meaningful. Thank you so much. And it has been a joy and a treat to chat with you about this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lauren. And I'm excited to hear the artists speak tonight and to spend more time in the exhibition. And this is not just a couple of days it's going to be up, right? It's going to be up for quite some time.
No, this is an ongoing thing, and we're content. Like even after our soft launch, like we've continued to add artists. It'll be continuously growing, and we just look forward to see like pulling in as many artists to celebrate as possible. So for you who are, and it just occurred to me that I did not share this earlier, but for you at home watching this, just know that if you go to InnovateHERKC.com and go to our resources tab, you'll be able to find InnovateHERS Create. That's where the virtual environment lives. You can enter the gallery and just look at really amazing art from some really amazing women artists. Just really excited to build on this and see it grow, and really excited to do that with you, Jason.
Excellent. Yeah, good. I was just saying, Erin should put the link to it.
Yeah, she's on it.
She just did as we're talking about it.
And I do really quickly, before we bring on our panelists for the evening, I do really quickly want to thank someone very special. Erin Zimmerman with Easy Visibility is here. She is handling the tactical pieces of this broadcast, because I got to tell you, one of my weaknesses, I am incapable of talking and pulling all the levers at the same time. I have learned that about myself, and Erin very kindly raised her hand, wanted to step in and help manage this process. She has been a dream to work with. So Erin, cannot thank you enough. And if you are interested in engaging her for help with your own virtual events and your own visibility opportunities, it is Erin Zimmerman at Easy Visibility. She's just amazing to work with. All right. So let's do the thing. Let's get down to the meat and potatoes of it. Thank you, Jason. We're going to bring on some really, really incredible artists from the Kansas City area, each of them unique and distinctive in the work that they do, but would like to introduce some women that I have admired or come to admire through this whole process. We have Courtney Lane, we have Jaelyn, and then we have Anita Easterwood. And we'll be talking to these three amazing individuals about their art. But the first question that I'm going to ask, and I'm going to ask everybody, and I think we might go in the order in which you appear on my screen, because that's just what I'm feeling right now. But I'm going to ask each of you just to tell us a little bit about yourself and your art, and how you came to be here. So Courtney, why don't we go ahead and start with you? And if you just want to tell us a little bit about what you do.
Absolutely. My name is Courtney Lane, and I am a Victorian hair artist and historian, also a self-proclaimed and proclaimed by others professional weirdo, because it is not every day that you come across someone whose entire profession is making artwork out of human hair or animal hair. And that's my entire medium. That is what I do as an artist.
And I'm pretty sure, I just want to like really quickly call out the fact, I do believe that professional weirdo is on your business cards, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
That is actually the moment when you and I met and I saw that, I was like, yeah, we can be friends. Like, we're going to be friends. All right. Well, thank you so much for that. And how about you, Anita?
Hi, everybody. Again, my name is Anita Easterwood. I'm a native of Kansas City, Kansas. I'm a portrait artist and illustrator. And yeah, been doing life my entire, or doing art my entire life. And I guess been taking it more seriously the last few years. So the way I heard about InnovateHER was through my friend, Cynthia Fales. She sent me an invite to the, exhibit. And yeah, that's how I'm here.
Yeah. Well, we're so glad to have you. And I actually, for folks who are looking at the virtual gallery, if you are on that page, Anita actually is the featured artist. Your I Will mural is actually the header image. And I think you may have had a partner for that.
My dad. Yeah. My dad is a seasoned
Lucky,
muralist.
is that right?
Yeah, Lucky Easterwood. Yeah. He's a seasoned muralist. And so together we created that 18th of Quindaro. So yeah, quite an experience.
Well, I mean, it's beautiful, certainly. And one of the things that most struck me is I love that artist statement that you gave us. If you scroll down a little bit on the page, we included it there. But the artist statement just coalesces and dovetails so beautifully with this amazing mural that you created.
Thank you. Yeah, I reached out to my sorority sister who's a poet and asked her to create that poem for us. So it just fit perfectly.
Yeah, and it's absolutely beautiful and very timely. So thank you for sharing that. And now we get to talk to, I'm so excited to talk to Jaelyn. Hi. And Jaelyn, you, for folks at home, you may notice that Jaelyn looks a little different from some of the artists who might be featured in this exhibition. Jaelyn is a youth artist who is featured. And so Jaelyn, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name is Jaelyn, and I like to do like illustrations, sometimes realistic. I like the ink medium, and yeah, I guess.
Well, so you have done some beautiful work, and I have to tell you, I love, is it The Weekend? Is that featured? So that was, it's actually one of my favorite pieces in the whole gallery. One of Courtney and Anita, like one of, but I love that piece because it's so vibrant, and yet you still have like simplicity in it, like, and so the pieces that you created to make it just really pops. It's absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, for sure. So let's hop into some fun topics. And I think I want to kick us off with what I consider to be one of the more interesting and important questions of the evening. And I want to ask, what inspires you? And I'd like to hear from all of you. Jaelyn, I think I'm going to pick on you first, but I just want to hear about your inspirations.
I mean, my inspirations, they kind of come randomly. Like I see like a color, or I see like a video or a picture, and I'm like, whoa, what if I draw that in my own style or my own way? And it's like, hey, there's this thing that I haven't used yet. What if I use that in the drawing? And yeah, that's kind of how I get my inspiration, just the world. And sometimes I just look at like a field or a tree, and I just see like a drawing, like it's like a picture, and that's how I get my inspiration, kind of.
Amazing. How about you, Anita? What inspires you?
Yeah, mine is actually quite similar to Jaelyn, so that's amazing for her to be able to verbalize that, because when I was at her age, I didn't recognize what my stat was, and so I would see something that I like, and I would just draw it the best that I could. It wasn't
Yeah.
until I got older that I was able to take liberties with my own drawings. But yeah, if I see an image, or a lot of times it's hair that really captures my eye. If I stare at it for a very long time, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to make that a drawing. So I consider art like my interpretation of whatever it is. And so most of my work highlights Black women. And so a lot of it is portraitures, but it also can be like historical events or figures at the same time, or even
Yeah.
conceptual things. Now, I don't do that as much because it takes an emotional toll on you. Like if you think about the mural, that was very emotionally taxing. So for me, I don't do as much as those types of things. That's not my main thing. I just do a lot of portraits, but
Yeah.
inspired by any and everything, really.
Yeah. And so I just want to denote really quickly, like the three pieces that we have featured in the Innovators Create gallery of yours. So there's one, and I very deliberately, like when we were setting it up, I put her in the center because she has such a direct gaze. And I would almost say defiant. Like she's looking out at you, and she's challenging you in a way. And I love that aspect of her, because here she is, this beautiful Black woman, and she is very secure in herself and who she is, and she is looking at you, and she is expecting you to be better. And so and like that's I feel like it's a call almost.
Right.
And
right.
With the understanding that art is subjective, like that, but that's what I took away from it.
No, you hit it exactly. You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what it's meant to portray. Out of all of the works I've done, that's the only one that actually has that direct eye contact like that. Like it's meant to be intentional.
Yeah. Well, so I love all three of the pieces, but in particular, like that's the one where I'm like, that's the one that I really want to bring home.
Yeah.
So Courtney, I'm gonna pick on you next, and I'm gonna ask you. I am absolutely so anticipating your inspirations, because I just imagine that they are very varied and interesting. So tell us a little bit about that. What inspires you?
Well, when it comes to my current business, my artwork, I'm making things out of hair, and that is very much inspired by history. It is a very old art form. It is, some would say, a nearly dead art form these days, as there are very few people who practice it. And I have almost a sort of empathy for not only the art form, but also the artists who historically made this work that is almost completely wiped from our minds. So I really want to revitalize that history and draw attention to the fact that it is an important art form. The women who historically made it are important women. And I see the medium of being able to use the body to convey the artwork as being something very, very important. I've been doing hair art full-time for 6-7 years now. I've lost track, but it's been for 6 or 7 years now. But prior to doing hair work, I was a dancer, and I am a disabled woman now. I'm not able to dance as often as I would like, in the way that I would like to, but my entire life, starting age 3, I was a dancer. So I almost see the medium of dance in a similar way to seeing hair, because I would try to take the emotions that felt like they were greater than words, the emotions of grief and mourning, depression, the emotions that I could then, as a dancer, use my body to convey. I didn't need words. I could use my movement. And now that I'm not able to use my movement in that way, I still see being able to take a part of the body, to take the hair from the head, either hair of my own, hair of my clients, and just the very nature of using the body and working it into hair brings it to another level. Yes, my work is decorative. Yes, I try to make it very pretty, but the sentiment is in the fact that this is a part of someone, and this person is important, and I am using them to make this work.
Yeah. Well, and I love how your work, I mean, essentially, I'm going to restate like what you just said, but I love the fact that your work honors the history of someone so directly, and so I think it's absolutely beautiful that you are taking a piece of history. And I know that you work with materials that aren't necessarily of the Victorian era, but a lot of the work that I've seen of yours, it's like this is a part of who we are, not just something pretty to look at. And I respect and value that so much. And plus I think it's super cool, like what you do. I can't imagine having the kind of dexterity that you must have in order to create some of these things that you make. But yeah, just blown away by the artistry behind what you do. And the fact that before I met you, I had never heard of hair art, Victorian hair art. What is the phrase? Is it memento mori? Is that?
Memento mori is the phrase you're looking for.
Okay.
Hair work is and is not memento mori. A lot of people
who
maybe know a little bit of information about hair art think, oh, in the Victorian era, they saved the hair of their deceased loved ones as a mourning, which they did. But the history of hair art and hair jewelry is much older than the Victorian era. And honestly, most pieces of historical hair art were just sentimental. It would be of your living loved one. If your husband was going off to war, maybe you would send a hair with him. And so it was very much conveying love in every sense of the word, whether or not you're separated by distance or death. And more often than not, it was your living loved ones that you were memorializing first. And of course, later, if they were to pass on before you, then that piece that you have of them would take on a new meaning, because it is still a part of them that you can tangibly keep and hold. Sure.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I stand corrected. I love learning about this art that you create. So my next question, and I'm going to go right back to Jaelyn because I am super intrigued. But I want to talk about process. We kind of talked about inspirations, and there was a little bit of process threaded in there, I think. But I'd really like to talk about the tactical side of what you do. So you have a beautiful idea in your head of what you would like to express. How do you get from what's in your head to what's on the canvas? Jaelyn, can you tell us a little bit about that?
It's kind of a confusing question.
Well, so you said that you like markers and you like sketching. So when you are getting ready to put the pen down on paper, are there some tools that you like to use in particular, like a specific kind of marker? Is there a process that you use? Just talk to us a little bit about what happens when you sit down to create art.
I don't know. When I sit, I usually print out references, like the original reference and some notes that I find, like how to draw hands using these shapes and a head, just so I don't freak out in the middle of it, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this certain position. So I print out some of those things, and for some reason I always do the head first, so I don't make it too big or too small, and then work my way down and then draw details. I basically do the skeleton method with squares, shapes and stuff, or sometimes when it's really detailed, I just draw what I see. But usually I use shapes and lines with the face and the posture.
Okay. I love that. And that's a perfect answer. Do you have any colors that you love to work with in particular?
I mean, I don't know. I like using skin. I like drawing people, so I have a lot of skin tones. So I just usually use skin tones a lot. Lots of skin tones.
Okay. I love that. And there's so much variation in skin tone. That's lovely. Anita, how about you? What does your artistic process look like?
Yeah. I would say once I find an image that I want to create, I sit down at the canvas, at the blank canvas for at least 10 minutes or so, just staring at it. And I'm mapping out in my head like where I want the portrait to go or how I want it to be sitting on the page. And then I always have to find a good podcast to listen to. I can't listen to music because my mind just doesn't work that way. And I make sure I wash my hands and all makeup off because once you scratch your face one time and the foundation ends up on your canvas, it's just like it's very frustrating. So I always have to make sure I have a clean hands, like clean face, a podcast, and I just go to town. If I have too much on my mind, it's kind of hard for me to do more detailed pieces. So I'll make note of that. Maybe I'll switch and practice and do some digital art, which doesn't take as much focus from me. But yeah, I really like my own space too. I don't like people watching me when I draw. So because they ask a lot of questions, which is fine, but it's just like, I don't know. It's just like, you'll just see, just wait.
So when people ask you questions, does it like pull you out of the kind of creative space, the flow of what you're doing?
Yes, because they're asking why I'm doing something. Like, why did you put that there instead of here? And so it's just like, because it'll make sense in the end. Like, a part of my process is not explaining my process. That's a fun thing about like doing work behind the scenes. You don't have people constantly asking you all these questions. But yeah, it's just like, just wait, because then they try to add their suggestions, and it's just not, for me as an artist, that's just not a fun thing for me.
Yeah. I can totally understand that. Totally get it. Courtney, how about you? What does your work look like tactically?
Well, perhaps in a different fashion than the other panelists here, I am very much at the mercy of my medium. The two pieces I have in this exhibit are actually antique human hair. They are from the Victorian era, cut off as a ponytail or a braid, and they are naturally very long and well preserved. They were just essentially put in a box in someone's dusty attic, and I've been able to use that. It's easier if I have a lot of hair, because then I have a lot of options. However, a majority of my work is done on a custom basis, where I have clients giving me the sentimental hair of their loved one, whether it's a mother giving me their baby's first haircut, or if it is someone who has a family member who is deceased and they're giving me that family's haircut. Sometimes I'll get an entire ponytail of hair, and then I have a lot of options. Sometimes I'll get a little teeny tiny lock like this big. And so I have a lot of different techniques I can do depending on how much hair I have. And some of the techniques, not all of them, do somewhat depend on what the texture of the hair is and how I'm going to go about it. I would say I have 4 sort of main techniques that I can do, and they are all very rooted in the historical practice. They are techniques I've learned from tracking down books and manuals and handwritten journals from the 1800s. So there is wire work, which is sort of the sculpted flowers. One of my pieces in this exhibit is that wire work technique with a vase of flowers. And then there's palette work, which is more like a flat picture, almost like a hair painting. And that's the technique used in the second piece there. And that one's very good if you have something very small, because I may not be able to make a big sculpture, but maybe we can put that in a locket. It doesn't have to be a big framed piece like the one in the exhibit. We can put it behind glass and you can wear it as jewelry. So, and past that, my last sort of resort, if I have just the little teeny tiniest bit of hair, I can actually grind it up into a fine powder, cutting it up first in snippets, and then if I need to, grinding it up even further with a mortar and pestle. Mortar and pestle. I always want to say pester, the mortals. And then I can use that to pigment a paint and essentially paint with the hair.
Wow.
And then the fourth and final technique. I almost exclusively need very long hair to do this, so I don't always get to do it as often as the other techniques, but it's a type of braiding around a table, almost like a lace work with bobbins, sort of a technique where I can actually make a long chain out of the hair that can be the necklace or a bracelet or a watch fob. So I have a lot of options, but I'm very much at the mercy of how much hair do I have to work with.
Sure. Well, and I had no idea that you could incorporate hair into paint, but I honestly, like, what a creative and inventive way to do what you do. So let me really quickly, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping, and I want to first of all acknowledge, so here on StreamYard, we're seeing some comments from folks who are watching, which I love. But want to say hello to Clarissa Knighton, who is another artist featured in the gallery. Deanna Munoz. Yeah, I think I saw Cynthia Fales earlier, who Anita mentioned. She was kind of the bridge between us. Wanted to say hello to Katie Mabry Van Dieren, who is highly connected within the arts community in Kansas City and one of our leadership team members. But thank you so much for watching. I'm seeing some questions and some comments pop in. Want to encourage you to continue to do that. We will actually have some audience Q&A a little bit later, so don't wait. If you have questions, start popping them in now. We would love to see the questions that you have, and we really want to hear your thoughts, for those of you watching at home, your thoughts on what you want to hear and what you want to learn about from these amazing, brilliant artists. So right back into it, and I just kind of, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and Jason alluded to this earlier, was the fact that women, and in particular women of color, are underrepresented within the art world. And it's really important that we, A, acknowledge that, but B, also want to create an opportunity. Like InnovateHERS Create is one of the mechanisms by which we're hoping to help. Nobody's going to solve the problem all on their own, but that is one of the reasons that we made InnovateHERS Create and wanted to do this. So I want to talk to you very specifically about your experiences as women artists. And Jaelyn, I'm going to get to you because your question is going to be a little different. We talked about this beforehand, but first thing I'm gonna ask Anita. Talk to us about being a woman artist and what that has meant for you in your career.
Ooh, okay. That's
I know it's a lot to unpack.
It's a lot. It's a lot to unpack. One thing that I'm definitely thankful for is I've been around talent my entire life. I mentioned that my dad was an artist, or he is an artist. But when I went off to college, I went to Kansas State University, and all of my art classes, the top artists were always women. Always. And whenever I'm researching other artists just for inspiration or just to write a paper about them, it always comes back to artist women. And so I recognize that we have so much talent. So when I think about lack of representation of us in the art world, it's not due to lack of talent. I don't think that's ever been the issue. So I think that's very important for me to understand, because that makes I extend grace to myself, because I'm like, all right, Nita, it's not that you're not talented enough. We just had to find a way to navigate and get to these resources. And so I think it's important for all women artists to know that you are talented enough. And so being a woman artist, I think it's always funny to see when people see who's behind the artwork. One, because I am young, and two, I am a woman. It always catches them by surprise. And it's I don't take it to heart or anything like that, but I do notice that it's always like, oh, you created this. What I'm struggling with and what I'm very grateful for when it comes to InnovateHER is, again, I'm looking for like resources to be a full-time artist. And I think Jason mentioned this earlier. It all eventually comes back to money. Like, we're looking for ways to sustain ourselves as artists. And one thing that's very difficult for us to come by is like gallery exposure. And so what InnovateHER did is you saw a need to support artists, and then you created something to help us get that exposure. Before COVID, everything was a gallery fee, and you have to have prior experiences in different galleries, all this stuff. And here I am. I've never been shown a gallery. Like, I'm more known around the city now than I was then, but just being new to the scene, it's been hard for me to get exposure. And so I'm just very grateful that InnovateHER was able to be one of the resources that are recognizing the challenges that we go through and something to actually use for our resume and for our future, things like that. So I know that there's a lot that I'm saying, but I think that it all ties in. Being a woman artist is about finding your voice and keeping your confidence and just learning how to be innovative, looking at other women who are artists and seeing how they made it. Because the great thing I love about artists in KC, I've never met someone who's stingy about their process, ever. And so, there's something about meeting another artist who's super about their work, because once you brainstorm, it just really takes it to a whole new level. And so you just really, really, really have to be innovative and not try to change your work to fit mainstream, like anything like that. Like, find your style and just believe like what you're showing. Like, I highlight Black women in my art. That will probably always be what I highlight, because that's what I love and that's what's true to me. And I think that that's important for me to always remain that way, So yeah, that's my answer.
Well, that was it was a lovely answer. It's sad that like that has to be the answer, because that's the reality of the situation. Like the struggles that you experience as a direct result of your gender, the color of your skin, all of these things that are at play. And I mean, I don't think it's any surprise to anybody, because this is an industry agnostic problem, but often it's not what it's not about your talent. It's who you know, and it's the circles that you get entree to, and so it's this self-perpetuating system of supremacy, haves and have-nots, and so, and I do want to be very clear here. I just want to say, like, InnovateHER KC, we did not do this because we wanted recognition for it. And I'm actually a little uncomfortable when you say thank you, because I'm like, this was a small thing that we did. And I don't imagine that it's going to have, great systemic impact. Like, that's not what the expectation that we had going into it. We just wanted to support our creative members and acknowledge the issues that you, as this incredible artist, deal with. So I just wanted to say that really quickly, and now I'm done.
Lauren, it never feels big to you. This might be a small thing for you guys, but to artists like us, like it does mean a lot. So we do appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And really quickly, before I ask Courtney, I do also want to say, if you are an artist watching this right now and you'd like to be included, when we talk about inclusivity of the women artists in this gallery or in this exhibition, we're talking about diversity as far as age. Hi, Jaelyn, how you doing? Race, gender expression, gender identity, orientation, and so we're very open to having these conversations. Low barrier to entry is one of our organizational priorities. And so we want to make it as easy as possible for the women creatives included in this project to be included. So I just wanted to say that really quickly. Feel free to reach out. My email is lauren@innovateherkc.com if you'd be interested in being featured in the exhibition. So now let's talk to Courtney. You probably have a different and yet in many ways similar experience, and I'd just like to hear about that. I'm making an assumption. Just tell us.
Very similar. I mean, I'm glad Anita pointed out the lack of gallery representation, because that is a very, very big thing. I've been a full-time artist in Kansas City for 6 years. And I will say I am incredibly grateful that I am able to do this full-time. But I'm able to do this full-time because I diversify my business. I do the artwork to sell pre-made pieces. I do custom orders. I also lecture on the history of the art form, and I teach classes on how to do the artwork. None of the different things I do individually would be able to sustain a full-time income. It's because I've done that diversity. And when it comes to gallery representation in Kansas City, I have never shown in a gallery. And there is a very weird, I feel like there are a couple of different circles I can float in within the Kansas City community that I don't feel like anyone feels like I fit into. And part of that may be the nature of people not understanding my medium or my artwork. But if I go to a strict business community, I'm the artist. I'm not a serious businesswoman, even though this is my business and my job. But if I go into an art community, oh, you're making things out of hair. Isn't that more of a folk art, or isn't it a fiber art, or it's just a craft that women did in the home 100 years ago that nobody cares about right now? And so I am neither seen as a fine artist or a serious business. And yet in my eyes, why not? Why can't I be both and exist in both of these worlds? And it's sort of the same issue that women have historically been facing, because I am a historian. So I'm very invested in the lives of marginalized people who were hair workers in the Victorian era. And I have found accounts in Kansas and Missouri, no less, of women fighting for more rights to exhibit their hair art at state fairs and to try to fight their way into the fine arts category, or women on the boards of giving out these awards saying, why aren't we paying the people who are winning these art awards? So it's the same fight, and I'm seeing it over and over again. Yeah.
Well, and I think you said a lot of very important things, but one of the things that strikes me, and I really hope that folks watching at home, if you don't already have an understanding of this, that you walk away with an understanding of this. But artists are entrepreneurs, unless you're just doing it for yourself. If you are out there trying to sell pieces of yourself, which is what I would posit that artwork is, if you're out there selling, like, you have to hustle, and you have to figure out revenue channels, and you have to figure out how to make this work sustainable, or if it's even a side hustle. I don't really like that term. But you are a business person. You're figuring out how to sell and how to engage and sell yourself and sell your art. And I think that there's this narrative out there. Like, you think of the kid going off to college who's majoring in art, and his parents are like, get a real job. And it's like, no. This is a real job. and I think we definitely need to start with that understanding. Like, just because you are creatively expressing yourself, you have to have business sense to be successful in this realm. And you have to be able to hustle and sell. So I just wanted to say that, and we can circle back to it, but I do see you here in the corner, Jaelyn. And so I think I told you that your question was going to be a little different. And so I'm going to ask you about your experiences as a young artist. I think all of us here on this panel and all of us at home are absolutely blown away by your talent and how great you are at communicating about this stuff. I think most of us wish that we were as cool as you when we were your age. But tell us a little bit about what it's like to be a young artist.
Well, there's lots of people. Sometimes people have doubt in kids, like doubt, like, oh, I draw something super realistic, and I show it to someone, like I show it to like one of my friends, and they're like, did you trace that? And I'm like, no, I actually drew it. And they're like, sure. And I'm just like, no, I actually drew it. It's yeah, I get that a lot. And like, people don't really like, they're like, oh, it's just a phase. It's just a phase.
Oh no.
Like, I get that a lot also. But there's like, certain people, they're like, oh, you're a kid. What do you know about this certain medium? What do you know about ink? What do you know about this pencil? What do you know about all of this? And I'm just like, well, actually. But it's like, they don't they just don't know, like they just don't believe you because you're so small and you're so much smaller than them and younger than them. They just don't understand. And but also it has some good things.
Yeah. Well, so I'm just going to take a moment here because I feel like it and because I can. And I want to affirm you, Jaelyn. I just want to tell you that, like, I looked at your art and I actually didn't know how old you were. I just knew that you were younger. But I look at your art and it's beautiful. And you have technique and you have talent, and you might not have achieved the great age that some of us here have, but that is totally okay. You are an amazing talent, and so I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
So one of the things, so keep on asking questions in the comments. I'm kind of keeping an eye out, and Erin is helping me to like manage this whole process, but we're going to open it up for questions at this point. Probably have time for maybe 2 or 3. I don't see any questions just yet, but I am going to turn a statement into a question because I think it'll be a good one. So Deanna Munoz, she is the executive director of the Latino Arts Foundation. They do a lot of really incredible work to put Latinx youth in front of mentors. Just absolutely incredible work that she does. She's also has the Midwest Chicana brand that she has been doing some really cool things with lately. But I'm going to ask, one of the things that she just said is that's why it's so important we teach our aspiring artists now rather than later. Art mentorship is so important, and admire all who mentor. So I'm going to ask you, have you had mentors in your career? How have they helped to shape and influence you? And I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to start with Anita because I just saw you nodding your head.
Yes, I think mentors are a big reason as to why I'm here. My experience growing up as an artist, my parents weren't the ones telling me that art wasn't a serious job. I was telling myself that because I didn't think that I had the hustle mentality. Like I saw my dad hustle. I'm like, oh, I can't be out there doing like that. Just live, So I didn't think I could do it. He's mentored me a lot. And then after college, I've met a lot of artists through social media, Instagram in particular, who have reached out and offered to help me and just show me the ropes when it comes to selling my art, because I feel so new to this. So when it comes to pricing it, when it comes to like figuring out like what type of medium I should even work with, or like how to market myself, my mentors have made themselves a resource for me, and that has made the world of difference, because a lot of times when you go through the lows and you feel like, oh, this is just a lost cause, they're the ones that said, wait, I've been there too. There's going to be times where it's very, very hard, but there is something on the other side of this. And so if you don't have anybody in your ear, telling you that, it's so easy to just give it up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. And I mean, honestly, like the importance of mentorship, it applies there's in so many different ways, so many different avenues and industries. But I wanted to ask you, I saw you nodding your head, but I also wanted to ask you that question because I know that you like that mural that you did with your dad. Like, I feel like he was probably an inspiration and a help and a mentor to you. So that's just super cool. I love that.
I love hand holding. And that's the thing. Like you have to understand, as an artist, you'll always be learning. Doesn't matter how old you get. And so the sooner you embrace that, the faster you excel, first of all, and the easier you'll be on yourself. So you're not as scared to take new challenges. And so, that was a lot of hand holding for him, but he was very patient with me, and look where it got us.
Yeah. Really quick, I do have, apparently I missed a question. Clarissa wanted to ask Courtney, she said that she loves your work, but she wanted to know if you could work with older brittle hair.
Yes. I have yet to find a head of hair that I cannot work with yet. There is a bit of a caveat to that, depending on what you mean by brittle. I would at least, if just theoretically I was taking an order from you, I would like to know why you say the hair is brittle, because the biggest hurdle is normally hair that has fallen out due to chemo treatment. I have worked with many cancer survivors, cancer treatment survivors with their hair, and the chemo really does really make the hair very brittle. It doesn't make it unworkable. I can still work with it, but I like to know that ahead of time, because just one example, if I'm doing the wire flower technique, if I use a wire that is too small and thin, it will basically cut right through the hair if I pull it tight. So in that situation, I would either avoid that technique, or I'd make sure to use a thicker wire that isn't going to be as harsh on it. So I always do like a consultation when I take a custom order to sort of get, how much hair, is there anything I need to know, like a chemo treatment. But I can essentially work with all hair. I've worked with Chihuahua fur. I've worked with some like large snow dogs. So I'm
Sure.
all over the place with the type of hair I can work with.
That is that's awesome. And what a lovely way to commemorate a pet who means a lot to you. Okay. So Jaelyn, I want to ask you, so one of the things that I have loved seeing is I don't know if I can express to you how big of a fan you have in your mom. She and I, we emailed back and forth a couple of times, like just when we were kind of talking about this opportunity. And so I want to ask you about that. I think that there is nobody out there who doesn't understand how important support can be. But we talked about mentorship, and now I just want to talk about support. How do you feel knowing that you are supported as an artist? And can you talk to us a little bit about that?
I mean, feels great. Probably one of my biggest supporters is definitely my mom, because she started my website, and she was the first person who ever saw like my professional art, I guess. So
yeah,
she started like a kind of like an era for me in my art, and I get to come here and talk to you amazing women and people, and it's great.
Yeah. Well, and that's great. And I mean, I'll be honest, Jaelyn, I really just wanted to give you an opportunity to brag on your mom. Don't tell anybody. But no, it has just been absolutely lovely to see you and to work with you and to just be blown away by your talent. So we're coming up on the end here. We've got a couple minutes left, and I want to do a lightning round. And so these are going to be quick, kind of snappy answers. But why don't we do, who are your art heroes? Who do you look up to as artists? Who inspires you specifically? I'll pick on Courtney.
I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, the people who inspire me are the women whose names have been lost to history, women whose work I can still see and admire today, and yet I very unfortunately and tragically will never know their names or be able to see their face.
Are there a couple of names that we could pop into Google if we wanted to do some more research? It's okay. If not, I mean, honestly, like I just, I know that you do deep dives.
Well, I'll give you this. And some of these women are not as nameless or as anonymous as others, but so many pieces of hair art that still exist today that were made in the 1800s, the artist was very not present. They did not sign their work. There's no documentation as to who made the piece, even though it's beautiful, elaborate work. But I'm very fond of a small village in Sweden called Womxn, where there were very, very poor women who lived in a very rural area, very little trade. And they taught themselves not only this art form, but multiple languages, so they could travel all over the world and sell their wares. And they ended up making many times over what their husbands made on the farm. And some of them went so far as to even supply Queen Victoria with hair jewelry. So I just love the entrepreneurial spirit of these women that most people have never heard of.
Oh, I'm going to immediately go to the Googles once we hop off here. Womxn? Is that
Womxn.
okay?
You'll probably find a YouTube video of me talking about them.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'll watch the hell out of that. Anita, how about you? Do you have artists that you look up to or who
Yes,
inspire
I
you?
do. I have a lot, but I'm going to mention one in particular, Dieren Nelson, because his work, I mean, you can just recognize it instantly. He's an oil painter, has work all over the world, and he also has some art down at the Negro League Museum. And
Yeah.
so the way that he puts his style on everything and how everything that he does has character, I love, 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 love that. And so he's probably the one that I watch the most.
Okay. That's awesome. Jaelyn, how about you? Who do you love?
I have two favorites.
Okay.
One is Frida Kahlo because I love her colors and like her self portraits, and her story behind those art pieces are amazing and sad and amazing at the same time. And my second one, which is kind of like more modern, it's a YouTuber named Super Ray Dizzle, and she inspired me a lot to get into the like when I was looking up videos because I was bored, like hacks or something, and I saw her video and I was like, wow, this is amazing, and I clicked on her channel and I got really inspired. So she's one of my inspirations also.
Very cool. And I would actually, if you like Frida Kahlo, we have an artist, one of the featured artists in the exhibition. Her name is Vania Soto. She does a lot of work around town. And I mention her because she uses color in just absolutely incredible ways. And so I invite you to look at her slide, learn more. And Jaelyn, I'd be happy to make an intro if you want. Or, Anita, Courtney, you too. So that concludes our evening, friends. And I just want to say, I cannot tell you, I've enjoyed this conversation so much. It has been, I don't know, it's been a dream for me, but I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and chat with us. Also, thank you for sharing your work so freely in InnovateHERS Create. I just, so much admiration and love for what you do. Thank you.
No, thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It's a good conversation.
Yeah,
Agreed.
And I mean, just so you know, and folks listening at home know, this is the first, but it is not the last. We plan to have some more of these Facebook Lives, talk to some more of the artists, maybe explore some different themes. But for this first one, yeah. You ladies are amazing. This has been a wonderful conversation, and thank you to the folks who have been watching and sticking through the conversation with us. This has been. We hope that you enjoyed it. Certainly enjoyed putting it on for you. And if you have any questions or if you have any further discussion, don't hesitate to reach out. But InnovateHER KC and I thank you.
Thank you.